If you take the typical South African food production value chain, you have roughly about 30,000 primary producers or farmers, and you have 55 million consumers, and say roughly the 50% of the SADC region, which we also produce food to. So that whole value chain, we facilitate the sort of the link between the primary producer and the further processing industry. And that further processing industry will then rework and manufacture the product up to the retail brand level, where the consumer recognizes the product and buys it. So the first issue was the regulatory industry said, look, we cannot continue with the OTC, it has to be regulated. ZAR X and the listed platform, for that matter, isn't the only way that you can do it. There's other options, but we decided first of all to go the listed option. I think that is what the regulator really had in mind, to go to a fully regulated and controlled environment. So we didn't want to do things sort of twice. The second thing is we found in ZAR X, remember, there was only one, for as long as South Africa remembers, there was only one listed platform. It's completely controlled and concentrated. So something of that entrepreneurial spirit, a new way of looking at things, cost, open-mindedness, entrepreneurship, those are the things that really attracted us. And of course, I won't lie, to be the first in any new venture is it's exciting. Our slogan is, breaking new ground. So this, falls into that slogan and our mentality very well. No, so that's been stable, but you can just see what's happening. You don't. In business, you don't do something without planning sort of 10 years ahead. So this is a first step in things to come. To list, to up your liquidity, to look at new shareholding structures. Those would be typically the things that you have to be ready for. To internationally expand. Those are typically the things that why you take sort of this first step, is to preempt things that might happen in future and where you want to steer it. So locally, we're the only player in the industry who followed sort of this JV route, and that is a consolidation strategy. Worldwide, the whole food value chain is consolidating. And South Africa, for very specific reasons, hasn't really followed that route. There's an overemphasis on control, and just for the sake of control. There's not really a financial rationale behind it. So we never agreed with that, and that's one of the issues, why we're moving into that space. So internationally, of course, risk mitigation, and all the other salient factors that a shareholder and an operating company would be looking at. So specific region in the world, you look at risk, you look at return, you look at multiples, you look at the bigger country risk, you look at the infrastructure, because it's a soft commodity market that the commodity has to move internationally. Those are the aspects which you will be looking at. So Europe, certain parts of Europe is of specific interest to us. Australia, New Zealand, those are typically the areas that we will consider and have considered. So not specifically at this point, but certainly, if transactions do materialize, you have your arsenal stacked up. The conditions are very favorable. If I just take you back, soft commodities, specifically corn produced last year in the region of 7.6, 7.7 million tons. You know, it's still early days, but I see, you know, maybe a doubling of that. So dramatically changed. The area, remember, there's two important things. More than 50% of our population is dependent on the Vaal Dam. If that goes, you know, above 60% and beyond, then at least you know there's enough drinking and commercial water. The second thing is, if there's enough staple produced, and specifically yellow maize and white maize, and the subsequent commodities like dairy, poultry, red meat, if you normalize that situation, the pressure on food inflation comes down considerably. And that's not only been a South African issue, it's been a worldwide issue, that the consumers are, they're stressed out, they're strapped out, they cannot afford more. And that's why growth is such an issue worldwide. So if you normalize sort of water production, water supply, and food, affordable, safe food, then you can you know, endure a lot of political instability. We have a very narrow, deep focus, so we will continue with that. More of the same consolidation, locally, internationalization, to also achieve risk mitigation, to breed the best in the industry. Yes, we're a dynamic South African company that believe that South African entrepreneurship is a sought after commodity internationally.